Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Shami from Section 2 of Islamic Literature in English. In a world where disorientation and disorder have become the pestilence of modern society, even with the fast technological advancement, man seems lost and drowned under the polemic issues of ongoing wars, human rights, and moral degradation. This problem not only affects the West as popularly claimed, but also Muslim community as a whole, where hedonism, discrimination, and ignorance turning rampant. Within this dark age, rise the contemporary Muslim intellectuals such as Syed Qutb in attempting to revive the idea of Islam to remind us of its values and the corrupting ideologies that are seeping into the mind of Muslims in his book, Basic Principles of Islamic Worldview. A little background about Syed Qutb. He was an Egyptian writer who has witnessed the perversion of Western secularism not only in the United States but in his own homeland too. He then joined the Muslim Brotherhood and was arrested on charges of sedition. In this book, the question on the relevance of the emergence of Islamic philosophy as a branch of Islamic knowledge is raised, as it is seen as a feeble attempt to reconcile between the two contradictory systems of faith and belief, that is, the Islamic message of absolute monotheism and the Greek traditions wherein their paganistic values were abundant in its culture. Thus, Syed Qutb suggested that viewing Islam through the lens of philosophy is an inappropriate form of confusion upon the perfection of Islam with the flawed human-based reasonings and speculations. The convoluted endeavor is wrongfully exercised as a shallow defense towards the clashing beliefs and interreligious debates and accusations, which consequently polluting it with superficiality. For example, jihad or its literal term, struggle, is only confined within the scope of defense against the claims of the Crusades and the Zionists about the spread of Islam is done by the sword. This is, however, a short-sighted perspective, as jihad encompasses plethora of levels under the domain of struggle, resisting evil desire within the self, fighting against shaitan's whispering, and preventing intellectual decay and aberration are also a part of jihad. Another reason why this attempt to reconcile between the two ideas is dangerous of it in creating cracks and divisions amongst the Muslim community itself. For instance, the murder of Uthman radiallahu anhu has led people to interpret verses of Quran in their own ways that usually end up with various arguments used in theological and philosophical debates. Syed Qutb mentioned about such aberration in his quote: "Whatever the Islamic world took from Greek philosophy and Christian theology had an effect on shaping the arguments that occurred among the various sects. Those arguments were nothing more than latter-day commentaries on the Greek philosophy conveyed in a distorted and disrupted manner and a defective language." From Ali and Muawiyah political conflict and the emergence of the alien concept, which is philosophy during the Abbasid period too, has caused further deviations among Muslims as the consequence of the conflict and mingling with philosophy. These deviations are apparent with the existence of sectarians, of Khawarij, Shia, and many more. Muslims at that time were free from crisis as they had faced previously and paid little concern of jihad. In this temporary respite, Muslim thinkers became infatuated with Greek philosophy, especially from the commentaries on theological and metaphysical discussions. Without realizing, they felt that Islamic thought could not achieve perfection without the garment of philosophy. Muslims need to realize that the origin of philosophical concepts which dated back from the ancient Greek paganistic society, is the reason why the West today have many Christian sectarians and growing secularism that are almost parallel to our circumstances. In this quote, Syed Qutb wrote, Western ways of thought follow their own particular paths, drawing first on Greek thought with all its paganistic contamination, and then on an enmity to the church that resulted in an ecclesiastical anathema. Ecclesiastical anathema means hatred towards the Christian church. From this quote, we have seen how carelessness in adopting a foreign culture without scrutiny has poisoned collectives as a whole. The Roman Empire rule of Christianity or the Catholic Church had never purged paganism surrounding it and leading its followers to interpret divine interpretations and additions to suit with their political issues of the day. They are based on ecclesiastical thought, not faith. Thus, multiple sectarians, particularly Protestantism, arose from these differences. Did you feel something familiar? During the Renaissance period, shortly after the medieval era, humanism, which was also derived from the ancient Greek society, slowly molded the infamous European thoughts to initially oppose the church to commonly oppose the overall concept of religion. According to Syed Qutb, this is why to apply philosophy in Islam in creation of Islamic philosophy branch is seen as a dangerous tactic, as we would intentionally taint the purity and the unification of Islam with babbling arguments instead of focusing our goal and roles as a Muslim. In Quran, Allah said in Surah Az-Zariyat verse 58, I did not create jinn and humans except to worship me. The perfection of Islam is also mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 3. Today I have perfected your faith for you, and completed my favor upon you, and chosen Islam as your way. Humanity has been progressively buried under the debris of confusion with accumulated beliefs, concepts, philosophies, myths, and thoughts that are described by Syed Qutb. From the prominence of humanism, individuals deduce with their own understanding based on correspondence nature itself. This is a flawed axiom in which ideologies that are rooted from philosophical humanistic approach such as positivism towards the definition of life as it is not comprehensive and confined to a certain limitation. Positivists consider that knowledge can only be based on what can be objectively observed and experienced, which is related to empiricism. Syed Qutb has given infamous talks that are indirectly produced by positivism, such as Marx's dialectical materialism. Dialectical materialism emphasizes the notion, the relative nature of theories about matter structure and properties, highlighting the continuous transformation of matter from one state to another without absolute boundaries of nature. In Syed Qutb's word, Marx claimed that matter is more important than the mind, since the mind is existentially contingent with matter. The consequences of this are that Marx rejects not only the assertion made by religion that the mind or the spirit will endure after the body, but also fundamental belief of religion or God as an everlasting being utterly independent of material existence. As an explicit fact, each religion in principle, according to Marx, is therefore in and of itself accursed and functions as the opium of the people. The phrase "the opium of the people" reflected his view on religion that was not only used by those in power to oppress workers, but to blind people from doing something to fix their terrible conditions. However, we need to bear in mind Marx's philosophy is a response toward towards political, social, and moral phenomena as a reflection towards the current economic situations. Thus, his ideology is only limited to its resemblance of financial system and, and the social aspect interacting with it. From the information so far, navigating life solely with nature is metaphorically similar to sail a ship without a map. Islam celebrated and promoted the use of minds while setting up the boundaries for them. In Quran, Allah said, "Indeed, the worst of living creatures in the sight of Allah are the deaf and dumb, and who do not use reason." While in Surah Al-An'am, verse 103 serves as a counterbalance. No vision can encompass him, but he encompasses all vision, for he is the most subtle, all aware. Therefore, it is proven that Islam is not only a comprehensive religion that only focuses on faith, but also enjoins its believers to use his own reason, as long as it is within its permitted boundary. In conclusion, Syed Qutb's basic principles of Islamic worldview underscores the dangers of merging foreign philosophical ideologies with Islam, emphasizing the perfection and comprehensiveness of Islamic teachings. He critiques the incorporation of Greek philosophy and Western secular ideas, warning that such influences dilute the purity of Islam and lead to intellectual and spiritual fragmentation. Qutb advocates for a return to the core Islamic principles rooted in monotheism and divine guidance, highlighting that Islam celebrates reason within the boundaries set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This approach ensures clarity, unity, and purpose for Muslims in navigating the challenges of modernity while preserving their faith and identity.